Hey there, folks. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy, and I'm going to revive an old but decent series for my channel that I haven't done in a while because I tend to kind of splice my own memories in with what I normally talk about. But I'm going to bring back a gamer's memory to talk about the things that I did with gaming growing up and into adulthood that I think are interesting, that I think that people can relate to, or just because I feel some nostalgia at that moment. So, one thing I want to talk about, and I have not talked about this on my channel at all, was my very first game console concept. The very first one I came up with. Well before the days of YouTube and online social media and stuff like that. Maybe during the days of message boards, but I didn't really have a computer back then, so I knew nothing of that world. But I had come up with a concept for a game console that utilizes your whole body. And yes, I do mean it when I say your whole body. Now, my mind was thinking way into the future, like that this is something that could be possible, but I, at the time, didn't understand the technology. So I came up with arbitrary metrics that would allow it to be done. Now that I'm older, I understand that the things I came up with couldn't have been done under the circumstances I would have tried to create with them. But many of the things that I did think about back then are either happening now or are possible now. And for context, I'm 37 now. During this time frame, I was somewhere between 12 and 14. I want to say I'm leaning closer to 14 because I do think that the Xbox was already out by then. I'm pretty sure it was. So I'm leaning closer towards 14. But I remember sitting down and just writing, because I had a notebook that I was writing things in. It wasn't a journal. It was just random stuff that I would come up with, like ideas and thoughts that I would have. And I got hooked on the thought of making a game console. Something that would be easy for anyone to engage with, but that could be utilized in so many different ways that it could literally create the world around you in the game. And I believe I called it the Mind. Yeah, the Xbox had to have been out. I called it the Mind Box because I couldn't think of a really good name at the time. So the Mind Box is what I came up with. One of the things that I remember talking about or writing about, because I did talk to people about it. I remember showing it to my friends and stuff during the time period. But one of the things that you had to do was put on a suit, like a fitted suit that had sensors in it that could read your movements and like monitor your body temperature and stuff like that. And the suit, the technology for the suit still would be advanced by today's standards. But the things that the suit were supposed to be able to allow you to do is, one, interact with the world, the gaming world, allow you to feel the things that you are touching in the game, as well as use different metrics to simulate like the pain the characters feel, not actually make you feel pain, but like if you're playing in a fighting game and your character gets hit in their side, it would warm up on the side to notify you, oh, I've been hit here. Yeah, that's where my brain was going. Obviously, you had to wear like some sort of headset, like goggles and things like that, and you'd have to wear something on your head for sound. So basically, a VR headset. That would also have a microphone and allow you to be able to communicate with other people around you, like communicate with the characters in the world as well as normal people that are outside of it. And my brain for some reason decided that this had to be a large room type thing that you would be stuck in. Which, now that I think about it, there are plenty of arcade rooms that are like that. And this was before they were created. So, or at least close to the time where the idea started spawning. But the box room that you'd be in, you'd be basically standing on a treadmill that constantly moves, like it rolls around underneath you, and you'd have something to hold you stationary inside the machine or the room. So basically you could walk around in the game world and it would feel like you were moving even though you were still stuck in place. And obviously you'd have, now I wouldn't have called it this back then, but I do remember saying that the sound would feel real to you. So it would be 3D sound is what you would have. But I just remember in my notes, it would feel like the sounds are actually there with you, like you're actually in the environment. I even went as so far as to make sure that like the whole suit was supposed to be custom fitted to you as a person. Each, like the hand pieces all had sensors and things in it. And every part of the suit that you wore basically, again, told the system what was going on with you, and it monitored your vitals in case of like a potential panic attack or anything that would cause you to have a bad health episode, so that information could be relayed outside of itself and someone could help you if there was ever a need. Yeah, I was thinking that far ahead. And like the thought was that you could do, this is where it becomes funny, because the thought in my head was that you could do this on like 500 megabytes of RAM. Again, I was very young, didn't really understand how anything worked, so I came up with arbitrary metrics. Even though I know that wouldn't work now, at least at that amount of RAM, it is possible for someone to do what I'm talking about now. Obviously, it'd be a costly thing, and you'd have to be able to subsidize it, basically, where it would be used in an arcade setting. But what I was talking about was for home use. Like, you had the game that you could insert in, like the game media, you could insert it into the machine, get yourself suited up and get into the game, and then eject it back out at will. I was thinking about all these things because of the concept. It was a cool concept to me to be able to directly interact with the game world, or to be inside the game world. I think honestly a lot of this was inspired by the TV series Reboot. A lot of it was at the time inspired by that, and for my general love of video games anyway, and wanting to see how video games could evolve and how things could be more developed so that a wider range of people could actually be able to play and enjoy video games. I think what I was basically coming up with would be the Animus from Assassin's Creed. you could be inside this machine, your mind is in it, but more so your body is in there, and you could physically move yourself about within the game world. Now, at the time, I had even come up with several different games for it. I can't tell you what they are. I cannot at all, because I don't remember. Though I do think one was based off of the Cliffhanger movie. A lot of my ideas were action oriented. I'll tell you that much. They were action oriented, based upon different scenes and movies that I had seen or video games I had played. Like, I think he even came up with a concept for putting someone inside of taking Arnold's place in True Lies. Like, where you took his place as the character and you had to do all the stuff he did. And maybe even see some of the perspectives that weren't shown on or in the movie. Because obviously it cuts away to different moments. Or being able to be one of the humans in Transformers. Like in the original Generation 1 cartoons. All that stuff was with me, basically taking the places of Spike and Sparkplug. And all of that stuff was cool to me. Or a game where you're in a shooting range, and since you can feel the gun in your hand based upon the suit itself, you would be able to, do the things that you would normally do with an actual gun, even though there's not one there. Now, I really don't know how all that would have been simulated, like how it would simulate the recoil and all that stuff. But in my brain, it was something plausible. It was, oh, you could definitely do this. This can happen. We just have to see where it goes. But it was just one of those things that was majorly cool to me. And seeing where VR tech is currently, when you look at it and research it, we're not far off from what I was talking about. I even came up with a way to be able to taste and smell things in the game. Like, you could have a sensor that you place on your nose that would hold onto your nose, that would generate the different smells and things from within the game. No clue as to how it would work, but my brain said, yes, you can do it. And now we got stuff talking about smell-o-vision, so obviously it can be done. The taste thing is still the thing. I don't know if it would be plausible. Now, I figure you could create data to simulate taste and then have like a sensor that is moisture resistant placed on your tongue. But I am not certain as to how that would function or how safe that would be, to be completely honest. But again, teenage me thought, yeah, this is all possible. This is highly possible. And I'm not saying it's not possible. I just don't know how you would get there. Like, get there and it be safe. Because I would assume it would have to use some sort of electromagnetic pulse or shocking technology to stimulate the senses in your tongue to create those flavors for you to say, oh, I'm eating some chicken in a game, I can taste the chicken. But I still think that could be completely dangerous, because if you're shocking your tongue, you potentially run the risk of tasing someone internally. The idea, it sounds doable, but it doesn't sound plausible with the safety matter being a concern. And here I am looking back at younger me like, man, your brain was out there, bruh. You had some wild, some wild thoughts. But the funny thing is, some of that stuff is coming into fruition or already has come into fruition. So it's like, well, was I really too far off back then? And it's fun to look back at it and just think about how some things turned out or how some things are going. Even though I was a kid with this overly wild imagination, I still do have, but I think I'm far more toned down from where I was as a kid. Because trust me, if the technology existed when I was younger and I could have made a YouTube channel at that age, I would have done it. And I would have been spouting so much nonsense, but it would have probably been interesting enough to people that they would have listened. But I don't want to drag it out. But you guys tell me what you think of the wackiness that Teenage Andre came up with. And maybe even throw in some stuff that you thought of back then as a kid, or what your thoughts on were with how video games could go forward when you were younger. Again, I just know I had these things pop into my head and I just had to write them down. I wish I still had that notebook. I have no idea where that went. I'm guessing it got thrown out at some point. But I so wish I still had that notebook. But that's it for me. Thank you guys very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out, everybody. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy, and I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in. If you would be interested in supporting my efforts in content creation, please head on over to Amazon and look up The Game Idea Guy Presents Gaming Word Search, and you will find both Volume 1 and Volume 2 up for sale. Thank you very much once again, and I hope to be able to create more content for you in the future. Peace out.